Good evening, everyone. You welcome to the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television, where we are broadcasting live from Douala, the nation's economic capital. I am Innocent Aze. In our major stories, more and more buildings continue collapsing in President Paul Biya's country. At least 4-story buildings have collapsed in less than 2 weeks in the cities of Douala and Gaundere. Two of them deadly. The recent is also a 4-floor-story building that collapsed early today in Gaundere, Adamawa region, killing 4 persons, a woman and her 3 children, injuring several. It collapses at the time 38 bodies have already been retrieved from robbers at Mobile Guinness Douala 5 subdivision, with search operation still ongoing. An atmosphere of mixed emotions still blankets the nation following release of the 2023 GCE results on Monday, while the successful candidates celebrate in different ways. Those who did not make it are still unable to ingest the bitter pill. In this newscast, we will show you the ambience captured in some centers. Those are major stories. Good evening once more. You welcome to the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe television. We begin with this sad story. Many people continue dying as a result of building collapsing in the Republic of Cameroon. The recent occurred early today in Gaundere, Adamawa region. A 4-floor-story building collapsed, claiming the lives of 4 persons, a woman and her 3 children. We have details with Cedric Chakunte.
After Douala last weekend, another story building collapsed in Gaundere. It is a 4-story building that created panic in Balangi neighborhood. For the moment, 4 are reported dead, and according to witness, the building was already fragile and could fall at any moment.
Je m'appelle Maxime, je suis du quartier. Et ce matin, comme vous l'avez constaté, on était à la maison aux environs de 8h, 9h. On a attendu l'écoulement de ce bâtiment que vous voyez. En ce temps, on est en train de sauver des vies. On espère d'avoir des vies dedans. C'est un bâtiment qui était trop fissuré depuis longtemps. C'est ce matin qu'on a constaté, vous-même vous voyez dans vos yeux.
Rescue soldiers are digging through the debris in the search for victims. The building was under construction.
Baladi 1, early this morning, this house has been collapsed, and right now we are here just to know how many people are inside the house which has been destroyed. We are sorry because the works made for this construction are not over, but unfortunately the house is now down, causing damages to a certain number of persons. We do hope that at the end of our intervention,
the search operation is still going on. The cause of the collapsed building is yet to be clearly established.
Like I said, at least 4 buildings collapsed within 2 weeks in the cities of Gaundere and also Douala. We told you as well earlier this week that 3 of them collapsed in the Douala 5 subdivision. The recent that occurred on Saturday was at Saint-Carter Escalier. The neighborhood also witnessed this disaster. Fortunately, no one died as a result. But we'll be telling you in the flow report by Smanjikan Gable how many have been rendered homeless. This report.
A video showing a house collapsing went viral on the social media this weekend.
My sister, who was about to go to the market, got and saw how there were some changes occurring in the house. So actually he came and woke us up that let us see there's something wrong. Something is wrong with the house. So we just had to go outside and look what was wrong. So with the serious rain and the running water coming down there, I think maybe it should be one of the causes of such an incident, because all the water was just coming down where the house is actually established below. This downer section, it was a highly reinforced area whereby we were having that embankment wall to prevent the ground from either collapsing. So with that type of heavy rain and the water that was coming down, I think maybe it is what has really contributed to the falling of the house.
The incident took place at Bepanda in a neighborhood known as Senkankat Escalier. Upon the arrival of Equinoxe television crew, it was total confusion amongst the inhabitants who don't know the way forward.
We have been trying to see what we can do in order to relocate. With all the materials that we had, it had to sink inside the house. So nothing actually came out. Only the 12 of us that managed to come out to see what was happening. Then from that, we couldn't even enter there because it was really shaking and vibrating. So everything had to just fall inside the house. Right now, we are just here because we are still thinking on where we can go to. That's why you can still find us at the site since Saturday. So I think we are just here because we are still we are stranded for a moment.
The house that was having occupants collapsed at a time when those living there weren't home. Apart from the occupants of the house who have now been left homeless, the destruction caused as a result of the house that collapsed were enormous. At the Senkankat Escalier neighborhood, no one was injured as a result of the incident, apart from properties that have been lost by people around the place. If the incident at Conteneur Rouge saw authorities visiting, it wasn't the case for the incident at Senkankat Escalier.
We saw people from the Douala 5 municipality who came here and tried to observe the situation, and they actually cautioned that it was not really good again to stay even around the building. And even people who are close to the house should actually evacuate, because it signals a lot of danger for people who are, especially those who are below. So since then, we have been receiving some media houses coming to know the situation, and then we have been responding to them.
The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Celestine Kecha-Cortez, who was in Douala this Monday, also failed to visit this site that needed some attention. The inhabitants are now picking the little they can to start up a new life.
No casualty recorded at the Bepanda Senkankat Escalier, just like in the Ipa neighborhood, still in the Douala 5 subdivision, where a story building collapsed. That was after that at Mobile Guinness in the Douala 5 subdivision, still that claimed dozens of lives. And information from our reporters from the scene this evening shows that the death toll has increased to 38. 21 persons injured and have been hospitalized in hospitals here in Douala. Meantime, such operation is still on the way. We have more with Annabella.
Over 2 days after the building collapsed at Mobile Guinness in Douala, the mixed rescue team composed of the gendarmerie and firefighters continues searching for either survivors or the lifeless bodies of victims. Relatives of some occupants of the building say they are still to get any information from their brothers or sisters who used to stay in the collapsed building.
On nous a présenté les corps à la cantine. Bon, on n'a pas vu nos enfants là-bas. Mes enfants là-bas, on ne les pas vus.
Some of them have been camping around the building with hopes of recovering their relatives, dead or alive.
Oui, les gens, les sapeurs-pompiers sont en train de faire leur travail. Ils nous demandent seulement qu'on patiente. S'il y a encore les corps, ils vont nous faire signe.
Those who live around the building told us since Tuesday, June 26, that the structure had 36 rooms plus several modern studios.
Le bâtiment avait à lui seul 36 chambres. Le bâtiment à lui seul avait 36 chambres modernes.
And on the ground floor that unfortunate night, there was a birthday party which brought several people together in the building. The rescue team continue with a search at Mobile Guinness as so many occupants of the said building are still missing.
Annabella there reporting on the present situation at Mobile Guinness, one of the incidents that claimed dozens of lives. Just like I indicated, our reporters from the field indicate this evening that the death toll has increased to 38 deaths, and now 21 injured persons have been hospitalized in different hospitals in the city of Douala. Now, let's talk something else. The use of formalin is becoming too common in our markets today. Traders ignore the fact that this chemical, which is mostly used in mortuaries for the treatment of dead bodies, is a great danger to human health, and it kills. The divisional officer of Chang in the Western region visited the Chang main markets to detect the use of the chemical on food items. Mala Glory reports.
It is at the Chang main market in the West region of Cameroon that the divisional officer made a tour and visited the different sectors. This to witness the use of chemicals such as formalin on different food items by sellers, a practice which the traders confess they have long abandoned. It's been 10 years today since I last used it. My neighbor recently was caught using it. Her goods were seized and all burnt. Meat that contain formalin are often dry meat from Nigeria. During his visit at the Changmin market, the divisional officer reminded the traders of the effect of formalin on human health. I want to remind you that formalin is a danger to your health. It kills, and those using it are exposed as well. Formalin is often used worldwide in mortuaries to prevent dead bodies from decaying. Unfortunately, the use of formalin has become common in our markets today as traders use it for the conservation of some food items, thus putting human lives at risk.
On a political note, President Paul Biya is back to the country after a month in Europe. One of the hottest files awaiting him is the Glencore large-scale corruption scandal. The affair has taken an unprecedented twist as President Paul Biya has been asked to open a legal investigation into the confessions of Glencore. For me, Armstrong Sander with details.
The Glencore scandal, which is now back on the limelight, was revealed to Cameroonians by renowned anti-corruption lawyer Barrister Akere Muna. This scandal and saga is back on the newsstands in Cameroon following a letter and plea to President Paul Biya to authorize a legal investigation into the confessions made by Glencore in the United States court last year. On May 24, 2022, the Swiss trading giant admitted to paying out some CFA 7 billion between 2007 and 2018 to top executives of the National Hydrocarbons Company, the SNH, and the National Oil Refinery Company, the Sonara in Cameroon. The letter from the SNH Director Adolphe Modiki asked President Paul Biya to authorize Justice Minister Laurent Esso to open a legal investigation in order to identify Cameroonians involved in the last scandal, a radical change in position for Modiki, who denied in a statement dated May 30, 2022 that his company was associated with financial malpractices. Cameroonian authorities like himself adopted a disturbing silence despite the acceptance from Glencore and a host of measures taken up by Barrister Akere Muna. This week, for example, Akere Muna wrote to the head of the Customs Office, Edwin Fongot Novaga, the head of the Tax Office, Roger Atanas, and the head of the Financial Crimes Investigation Unit, ANIF, asking them to take over the matter. Given the fast legal actions and compensations obtained by Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and other countries in Africa, the inaction from Cameroonian authorities remained a veritable problem. Observers, however, say that the letter sent to President Paul Biya while in Switzerland can be explained as a response to the pressure mounted on Cameroon from the Financial Surveillance Task Force and the Extraction Industries Transparency Initiative.
And now education. As results of the GCE ordinary levels and advanced levels examinations were released on Monday evening, some successful candidates were at various schools to check their results and celebrate with their friends. Those who did not make it are still finding it difficult to come to terms with their failed results. Lucy Liango visited some schools in Douala for subdivision. She tells us more about what she saw.
Exciting day for GC ordinary level and advanced level successful candidates in some schools visited in the Douala 4 subdivision. Most of the successful candidates, after seeing their names on links provided by the GC board, decided to visit their schools to celebrate with their friends and teachers.
And I've seen so many of my friends that their names have come out, and we are also happy to see the result that our names have come out. And yesterday when they called me that the results are out, like I was so tense. I never knew how I was going to look it because the tension was just too much.
They called, my elder sister called from Yaoundé and told me that I've passed. As I just left the house to go down, my uncle sent the children to come and tell me that I've seen my name. And I was so excited.
Yasmin was a Form 5 commercial student. She is overwhelmed after making it on the overall best student this year in Cameroon.
And I passed the O levels. I was recognized by the GC board in the whole of Cameroon as honors. I received the honor roll. It's an honor for me to be among the students.
Signing and writing on their uniforms, according to them, completes their joy. Mostly those who made it in the advanced level examinations, going to the university is an achievement.
And I'm very happy today because I made it as a student. I am out of uniform. I wore these two uniforms because I know I'm out.
All my sufferings were coming back from school at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. every day. See my skin. I don't dry. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Parents were equally seen in schools jubilating.
Yes, I'm filled with joy. You know, it is joy of every parent that the student should succeed or the child should succeed. So I should not be an exceptional case. At least I should be among the people jubilating too.
Though the results seem good on the part of most students, others are worried because they are yet to know their grades.
I wrote 11 papers, but they have showed my name as passed. I've not seen the paper I had, but I believe that I've done it.
The commercial, the papers are not yet out, so we already have seen our names and we are happy that we are very passed.
Like the saying goes, there is no failure except in no longer trying. Those who could not make it are encouraged to work harder.
And just to note that there's been a drop in this year's general performance rate as compared to last year. And that's what we'll be discussing on Talking Points today. And now we take you to news out of the country. Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko can now freely move out of his home again. For close to a month, security forces restricted his movement within the limits of his residence in Dakar. Babla Jonathan tells us more.
Security restrictions set up around the home of Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko in the capital Dakar have been lifted. The candidate in the 2024 presidential election had been blocked by the security forces at his home since May 28. Interior Minister Antoine Diome had justified the restrictions imposed on Ousmane Sonko by the latter's calls for resistance and rallies. The minister is quoted to have said, "Are we going to let him go around Senegal, do rallies and count the dead behind? We can't." End of quote. The authorities have said nothing to explain the lifting of the restrictions. Ousmane Sonko was sentenced to 2 years and a month suspended prison sentence on May 8 during an appeal for defamation. The sentence was widely perceived as a deliberate intention to make him ineligible for the presidential election, but he has not yet exhausted his appeals. the Supreme Court.
And that's where we end the first segment of this newscast. Stay with us. Up next, Talking Points. Good evening once more to you. Thanks for joining us on Talking Points. Today we'll be having as guest Nous, détenons. He is an educationist, and of course today we'll be talking about the GCE examination results published yesterday, and we'll also be looking at the causes of the decline in the results as compared to last year. Good evening to you, Nous, détenons, and thanks for joining us on Talking Points. I first of all want to find out your appraisal on the GCE 2023 performance rate, 67.88% against 70.25% in 2022.
Good evening, Mr. Azed, and thank you for inviting me to your program, Talking Point. When I look at it as an educationist, I want to feel like others Cameroonians that there is a drop with the percentage both at the advanced level and at the ordinary level, both technical and equally general education. There is a drop of about 3%, and there are many reasons that can be accounted for this drop, as maybe we'll unfold it on the program.
When you look at the performance rates, you will see that the technical part of it suppressed the general education. What's happening with general education in the northwest and southwest regions?
I think for some past years, we have realized that the general education in particular is dropping as far as the result is concerned. And there are many reasons behind that. The first thing is that we know that technical education is basically practical aspect of learning. The students are not only being graded on the aspect of the theory, but they're actually graded on the aspect of practice. And we know that practice makes perfect. And one other thing I want to make it very clear to Cameroonians and even to parents is that technical education is something that children have developed a lot of interest in it. And they see that even in the aspect of job being awaited, they create job for themselves. That gives you another boost for them to go as far as study is concerned. Whereas for general education, I want to feel that our children nowadays, they are not serious at all. I want to be very clean and clear with you that most of our children, the general aspects, they are not serious. Most of the worst situation is being found but in township, where the students are highly distracted with social media, with other aspects that do not call for learning. And even sometimes along the line, I want to say that the issue of malpractice has been one of the main reasons why this general education is dropping. They cheat there more than even in the technical education aspect. I will still come back to indicate that when you look at the result of 2023, you see that both the ordinary level and the advanced level, the grades are high. They are all above 60%. But general education, both general and O-level, general A-level, general O-level, you discover that they are between 61 and then 50-something, which means that something needs to be done, either from the states or by the authorities that be mostly from the schools that are concerned in maybe teaching and then maybe the way these programs are being managed.
Nous, détenons, what could be the possible reasons for the drop in performance rate this year and the GCE board?
The first thing I want to think that could have been the reason behind the drop in the general percentage is, first and foremost, the political nature of the country at the moment. This political crisis in the northwest and the southwest, I can think that it is one of the main reasons. Other reasons may be there, but that could be the main reason. Study needs a conducive atmosphere. That's teaching, learning need a conducive atmosphere. We should not pretend. When you look at the structure in the northwest and southwest, the students there are not in a stable, conducive environment. Normally, you cannot be studying when guns and insecurity are going around. Some students are registered from one center and then they are carried to another center. Some of the students were even brought down to this our own west part of the Mungo, but because of the financial situation, they could not manage life over there. They had to move back there. So in the course of this year, some of the students have been moving from one part of the town to another. And that means that they do not have enough time to take in their studies. That's the first part of it. Then the second reason why I believe that the general performance is down is the fact that our parents are no longer putting a lot of emphasis, because education is a three-way process, and these three pillars must contribute to make a child successful. We have you as the teacher or the school, we have the parent, and again we have the children. So if these three pillars do not work together, that means that one side will be limping. And most of our parents, because of the nature of the job and so on and the rest, they don't actually create time to follow up their children back at home. So the whole thing sometimes is leveraged on the part of the school or the teacher, and they cannot do this entire job. So my advice to parents is that they should sacrifice some time to always check the students or their children book when they come back home. It is very important. If you sometimes pretend and visit the school without necessarily indicating to your child that you are going to come to that school, that particular follow-up is a positive move to create awareness to the child at any time within the school milieu.
Well, Ruben, I'm sure you have heard of some people say faults are usually committed during the marking session, possibly resulting to some failures. Is that true?
No, when you talk about aspect of evaluation, as we may put it, and as an examiner of the Cameroon GC board for more than 20-something years today, I will reject that aspect. We are talking about an English exam that have stood the test of time. We don't really have that mandate to talk on behalf of the GC board, but I want to just make a small summary here. That this exam we go and correct. Sometimes people leave, examiners leave from Britain and come and sample some of the script that they do mark here to see whether it holds within standard. And I believe that since the creation of the GC board, they have maintained that standard. The result that the child or the student or the candidates receive at the end of the result or the publication of the results are the result that the candidate merits. So let us not beat about the bush that there was wrong marking, there was wrong calculation. They are process that they do follow up to make sure that if a candidate has 2 marks or 2 marks, let that 2 marks be given to the candidate. Because there are people who are involved in the marking, there are people who are involved in the checking of the marking, there are people who are involved in the counting, and then there are the count. So all those processes are taken care of. So if a candidate, as I put it, no longer a student, because when once you, as a school, submit your student, it goes to the GC board, they are now known as candidates. So once a candidate scores 4 papers, it is 4 papers. It has even been proven that most of those who even go some time to pay for remark have not succeeded in having a positive change in the results. So the best thing to my knowledge is that we should instead advise our children to focus on education.
Over 10,000 registered candidates out of the over 182,000 registered didn't write. This is huge. How do you explain that?
I want to think that the issue of not writing, registering and not writing comes from different perspectives or different background. One is that there have been a lot of movement from the part of parents. Parents are not too much stable. During the crisis, so many students moved into this the east part of Mungu. So many. But conditions are gradually getting stable. And most of them discovered that they could not be able to sustain the standard of living as far as urban towns are concerned, like Douala, Yaoundé, Bausa, and so on. So they had to migrate back into the regions. In the course of that, the children were not able to come for the exams or to sit in for the exams. That's one of the aspects. Then the second is that, you see, some of the students were defeated before even the writing of the exams because of ill preparation. And the closure of some of these, what we call, clandestine centers, where students used to believe that when they register in this center, they are just going there to pick their exams. So the aspect that they closed those filial centers and relocated back those centers to the major accommodation centers killed the spirit of most students, and then they just decided to withdraw from participating in the exam. So these are some of the possible causes to the best of my knowledge.
Looking at things, can we say Anglo-Saxon education is crippling to the strangulation zone?
There is a bit of drop in our level of education here. I want to feel that it's dropping because our educational system is not well oriented. It's not well oriented. And for that reason, you discover that many of our bright students who perform at the level of O level, at the level of advanced level here, they attain their postgraduates and maybe graduate courses out of the country. So that now gives an advantage for the receiving side to have higher quality education, whereas those that were weak remain back within the area of the country. And they discover that that pushed down the level of education. That's one of the aspects there. Then secondly is that most of our students who have even succeeded here, those that are behind, like I'm talking about like education, where students have asked me questions sometimes and it was even difficult for me to answer them, that we are only forcing them to study. What about those who have studied, their elder sisters, their other brothers who studied, succeeded, and they are in the house begging savon and so on and so forth. So that's an aspect that discourages. So you see, education needs to be encouraged, it needs to be motivated, and the students should see reasons why they are studying. And that's why I still go back again to you. I said, I will tell you that as an educationist in Douala for many years, I have discovered that technical education is selling. Not only selling because the children there realize that they can make a living out of it, but it's selling because the parents themselves have seen a way where they can relieve themselves of a dependence by their children. A child goes to technical education, by the time he's getting to from 3, from 4, he can already create something. So maybe work money. I have a child in my house who is a graduate, not a graduate, who left with A-level technical and building construction, but he's working somewhere and is being marked during this holiday 5,000 per day. Then ask yourself, what about a child who undergo general education? So we need to change our educational, I don't know how I can put it, we should orientate our education towards job creation rather than depending on the state for employment.
Ruben Dumu, what must be done quickly enough to revamp educational excellence in the northwest and southwest regions in particular, and Cameroon in general?
Your question is talk about how do we do to resolve this issue of a drop in education. How do we make our children to have interest in education? Because the first thing in acknowledging something is by loving that thing. If you don't love something, you will not develop interest in it. The first is that the government should make teachers comfortable. That's the first aspect. Teachers should be comfortable. They should be well paid. They should be well fed. When I say well fed, in our days, we used to see that they used to create even the what we call housing scheme for the teachers, where they used to even stay on campus. Like you go to like Bangla Grammar School, Muliko, you see there is a teacher residential quarter there and so on. Those were the good aspect where teachers have a good place to stay, prepare their notes, prepare their lesson, have where they can evaluate, and they are comfortable. Salary to good scale. So you see, since salary of teachers were cut, and other people from the same sector, you discover that it is one of the core of the drop, which I even forgot to indicate as far as education is concerned. When somebody is not happy, he cannot give the best of himself. He wants to create other aspects where he can make living out of that zone. Because if not, I will tell you in fact that I'm in Douala here. If you pay me maybe 200,000, I have to pay house, I have to buy food and so on as a teacher. How do I survive? So they have now to go into private sector and so on. So in the course of that, they create a loophole in their own school, which now help now to bring down the general percentage in that area. Then I will still come back to indicate that the issue of the separatists and so on, you see, To me, in times of war, there is no absolute victor and no absolute vanquish. This is a particular phrase which I hold so tight. Why am I going there? If you are even the person who wins the war, the question is that how many people have you lost? Property, can you count them? If you lost the war, you still count people that you have. They have died or they have been shot and so on. So there's no absolute victor, no absolute vanquish. So the best thing is peace. If peace can return to the northwest, southwest, this issue of a drop in, because a drop in education will be corrected in one way or other. I will still come back again and I will mention one thing here which is very clear. When we used to produce results at like this same time, when you want to count the number of schools in the Northwest that produce 100%, you'll be counting from 10, 20. You have renowned schools, PSS, and I don't want to be calling names because it's not publicity. You have those lines there with maybe 200 students, 300 students, but now you will call those major schools, how many students are there? Maybe 70, maybe 80. Then the rest who used to focus on education in the villages and then in those towns where they are not yet infested with this, our urban town here. No, they were focused on education. But here, when the students are brought here, they indulge into drugs, they indulge into prostitution. I am sorry to call those words, but those are things that we witness within the school milieu in urban centers. And the only way is let peace return so that those Anglophones, those parents, those children should go back to their homes and be comfortable with that aspect. They will learn and education will move ahead to the best.
Before you go, any contribution from parents and the GCE board?
Yeah, the role of the parent, I want to still think that when the parent is displaced from his home, the parent will first and foremost, you see, somebody who left his compound with about 3 sleeping rooms, a parlor and the rest of those things, he is moved out of his zone because of, that's involuntary migration. Not voluntary, involuntary. He finds himself in a town here, he rent 2 apartments with about 9 children there. Is that parent comfortable? No. So what we want to say is that let peace reign so that parents should go back, because we know that Anglophone parents in general, they like education. And when they like education, they will do everything for their children to succeed. But to succeed, you must have peace. The GC board don't draw the curriculum that we study. It is drawn by the ministry. The GC board is an independent examination board that its own role is to evaluate the exam that they set and evaluate. That's their own role. So the only thing that we should do is not the GC board. We can only tell the GC board that they should maintain the standard, because those who pass this year, to the best of my knowledge, they deserve it. And I still want to thank the registrar of the GC board, because he did a wonderful job. And what a wonderful job, he reduced the number of accommodation centers, those small filial centers. No. Some small schools that they were doing it because of the COVID. No. Those centers were amalgamated into the major centers. And then not only that, we discovered that superintendents were not keeping questions in the various centers. They were collecting those questions every morning at the the liaison office every morning, and they can only open the question in their center at 8 o'clock. So giving them only a space of 10 minutes. So it has that leakages were completely minimized. And that is one of the reasons why you find the drop in this, because those students who pass, they merit, they pass. Another aspect that we are forgetting is the aspect of saying that the exam has been published more earlier than expected. I'm sure everybody, including me, have been taken aback to see that exam have been published by June 2024. We're expecting it first week of August. So I give a credit to the registrar of the Cameroon GC board, and then his hierarchy, the Ministry of Secondary Education. I want to think that they have done a wonderful job at their own level. Thank you, Mr. Azia, and I'll always be available if need arises.
Thank you as well, Domo Ruben, for accepting our invitation, Talking Points today. And to you viewers, we want to thank you as well for staying put. And we enjoy you to stay put to more interesting programs coming up on Equinoxe television. Have a nice evening and see you tomorrow, Same time, God willing.